go live this evening, slightly later than normal. It'd be interesting to see who joins us this evening, Claire. So as always, Claire's just doing some behind the scenes to get the stream up and running on her Facebook page. And so welcome. We have Street Vet and Jade, the co-founder, is joining us tonight. And we're very, very honoured for you to join us. I really appreciate you giving up the time to share a little bit about what's going on with Street Vet, your ambitions and the history behind it. And so before we kick off that, just to remind everybody who may not know who I am, I'm Sarah from Berkshire Dog Training. I'm based in Reading in Berkshire, supporting owners with real life situations from when they get their first puppy home or other issues that they may be dealing with when the dog maybe doesn't do quite what they expect to do. So I'm on hand to support them and help them understand their dogs a bit better. So Claire, will you finish? Are you ready?
Yes. Hello, I'm Claire and in Sight Hands. I work exclusively with sight hands in person and online, and I specialise in X-racing greyhounds. And I'm so excited for our guest this evening. So thank you so much to Jade, who's one of the co-founders of Street Vet, for joining us today. So welcome, Jade.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for inviting me.
It's an absolute pleasure. If people have no idea who you are or haven't heard of Street Vet, can you just give them a little bit of background as to who you are and this amazing charity you've created?
Yeah, absolutely. My name is Jade Stat, and I qualified as a vet in the early 200s, 2002, from Glasgow Vet School. And I was a vet in practice for many years, still am a vet in practice because I love it. But I went on a night out in 2016 with some friends of mine and stopped to talk to dogs, which is what I do and probably what we all do. And the dog belonged to a gentleman who was experiencing homelessness in London at the time. And that conversation quite literally changed my life. He just had a bit of a nutty staffy who was licking me in the face and bouncing up and down, and we got talking, and he was just really worried. His dog had some sore skin issues, bit red, bit itchy, and I think I hadn't realised that I had no idea where people in those kind of situations would take their dog for vet care. So I just asked him, and he was like, I don't know, Jade. Like, I really have no idea what I'm going to do. And at that time, I was going through a kind of pre-grieving process with my own dog. So I had a chocolate Labrador called Oakley, and I'd recently diagnosed him with cancer, and phoned every specialist I knew, and explored every option I could possibly find. And I knew I was going to lose him. And he'd been, just that kind of rock of a dog as they are, through quite a lot of mental health issues that I'd had, and I'd been off with depression quite a few times in my career. So I don't know, I think there was just some kind of serendipity in the meeting of this gentleman, and just that realization that all I could think about the whole time when I left him was what would I have done if that had been Oakley. And it really, don't know, it just hit me really hard. And I just thought, if I had what I needed, I could have helped him. And then I just thought, right, I'm going to do that. And that was the start of it, really. So nobody means to set up a charity. Definitely not. I was like, Mum, Dad, I'm just going to put a backpack on, going to go out one Sunday a month, and I'm just going to help people who can't access veterinary care for their dogs. Mum and Dad were like putting, GPS trackers in my backpack and just thinking, what is she doing? And it was quite a naive thing to think I could do, to be honest, looking back on it now in a kind of sweet way. There was a lot to be done. Like, I couldn't just put a backpack on and go out. So I met a guy called Joshua Coombs. He's still a really good friend of mine. And he cut people experiencing homelessness people's hair, and he started a movement called Do Something for Nothing, And I just got in touch with him and I was like, I want to do what you do. But I don't really know how to do it. And we met for a coffee and he was like, let's do it. He's quite an inspirational chap. But I was like, Josh, you just need scissors. Like, I need to make sure I'm not going to get struck off. So it took quite a lot of kind of meetings and lots of dotting I's and crossing T's and just making sure that I wasn't going to do anything that was going to cause my professional qualification any risk.
Right.
But also you need to, if you prescribe a drug, you have to provide 24-hour care. So it was working out the logistics of how I was going to do that. And then you can't just, you've got to store drugs and be inspected. And, there's lots of elements. And so I was a bit like, this is harder than I thought.
It sounds really, really tough.
Yeah, it just, it was amazing how supportive all the people that I phoned and spoke to in terms of the hardest thing to get was insurance, not the veterinary insurance, but public liability insurance, because it's like, I'm going to be on the street and I'm going to have drugs and, there's going to be dogs and, the insurance company's just
I
like,
can't imagine direct line actually going, yes, no problem at all.
So that was a real sticking point because I was like, I don't know if I'm going to get this done. But yeah, so it took a while, and I first kind of went out in the streets properly was with Josh, and he was cutting hair, and I was doing the dogs, and ended up on the news, which only could happen hanging out with Josh, and it snowballed from there. Really, I just was inundated with members of the veterinary profession saying, I see people all the time where I live, and it never occurred to me either where they went for veterinary care, and I want to do what you're doing. And I think it was just, again, a kind of moment in time that just needed to happen, because I think lots of the veterinary profession, as we know, have been in the spotlight quite a lot of late, and before, where we're burnt out and we suffer with compassion fatigue, and we are natural fixers. We want to help people and we want to heal. And I think that veterinary in practice can be a really hard place to be. And I touch on that quite a bit in the film that Street Vet has. But we could talk about this a lot more. But so I think that what Street Vet does is it allows vets and nurses to just take away all the other stuff. So worrying about money and time and insurance, and just allows them to do what it is they went to vet school or vet nursing school to do, which is just to help a person, help an animal. It's that simple. And I think that is why Street Vet kind of went on the trajectory that it did, is that the profession really needed it because they were desperate to just reconnect with the passion for their profession. That was not what my intention, but it did that for me. And then I discovered it did it for quite a lot of other people as well, which was amazing. I realize I've talked a lot. I'll be quiet now.
No. I mean, we're just hooked, in that sense, and like you say, I had never even thought about where people go for support in that environment, and and I can see the journey that others in your profession really struggle, and I work very closely with a number of local vets here in Reading in Berkshire and Henley, and there is. But the whole reason that they came into the industry is to support people and the animals in particular, and dogs are just part of their technical requirement, isn't it? So it's all animals and all sizes that they support. I'm just curious about how people responded when you started talking to them actually who needed your help. How did that go? Because
again,
I'll end the question there. Sorry.
No, again, not like I expected. I genuinely thought that here I was bouncing over to help and it would be well received. And I look back at it now and just feel quite mortified at my just my lack of understanding of homelessness, because I genuinely none. Like, obviously, other than just I like talking to people. I hadn't perceived that, obviously when people come into a vet practice, they want your help, they need your help, they're paying for your help, they booked a consultation. Here was me going up and just offering my help to people that hadn't asked for it. And so the transactional, it's completely different. So they're suspicious, they're anxious. A lot of people, obviously immediately defensive, because their perception is that you think there's something wrong with my dog, which means you think I'm not looking after it properly, which means that you're judging me, and that you can see where that would go. So I did really struggle at the beginning, because I didn't really understand what it would be like when I thought about it from the other side. And so that's why Josh was key for me, because what Josh had already developed was trust and a relationship with people. And so he was like, you know what, she's all right. Like, she's not here to judge you or take your dog away, or she just wants to help you. And so there was a lot of learning with Street Vet, a lot. But the first learning was definitely that, going up to people in that manner was not the way to do it. And so when Street Vet actually became a bit more established, we were like, right, what we need to do is partner with a trusted organization that already works within the homeless community, who can not necessarily even vouch for us, but just allow us to be present. And it was about turning up when you say you're going to turn up, not letting people down, and just waiting for them to trust you enough to let you treat their dog. And now I'm very delighted to say that process is a lot quicker, because people have heard of us now. We've been doing this for quite a long time. So when we set up in a new location, the homeless community is incredibly connected. So we see people in our London outreach who then turn out up our Cornwall outreach. So, people talk, and if they're like, yeah, they looked after my dog and they're okay. Or, I went into hospital and I let them look after my dog and they gave me my dog back. All of these things start to be communicated. And so it is a much easier transition to trust than it ever was at the beginning.
It's fascinating. You talked there about the myths and trusting, and there's so many angles that this is coming from, because you're looking at the vets, you're looking at the people that are homeless are trusting you, and I think you were saying about judgment and as well. And I think there's a lot of people out there that love dogs, that see homeless people with dogs and have certain opinions on those people having dogs that haven't got a home, because as a pet, someone that loves their pets and a pet parent, we go, oh my goodness me, vet treatment is so expensive. We were having a conversation with someone I walked a dog with the other day, and we were like, well, yeah, we're spending more on our dog's food than we are on our own food, and all of this sort of stuff. So then when people look at people that are homeless and going, well, they've probably only got the dog for because they think that will get them more donations, or they think people will give them more money, or obviously you're on the ground. How many of those myths do you come across, and what sort of things do you hear, and what's the reality from your point of view?
We did some work with Tails.com, and they did some really interesting sort of surveys of the public, and they've done them consecutively for us for a few years, and it's improving. But at the beginning, one of the questions was, when you see someone experiencing homelessness with a dog, what's the first emotion or the top emotion you feel? And the one that came out above all else was anger. And that's hard, but I get it. And there was also, are you more likely to stop for someone if they're just them or if they've got a dog? And it's, it's the same as if I walk down the street on my own, no one's going to probably talk to me. But if I walk down the road with my dog, someone might say hi or smile at me. They are a conduit to conversation and interaction. So yes, I think there absolutely is a perception from the public that people experiencing homelessness get a pet to increase donations, sympathy, interaction, that there is some kind of angle to it. I guess from a Street Vet point of view, the people that engage with Street Vet are people who will do whatever it takes to look after this pet. And a lot of our clients, majority of our clients, have had their pet before they became homeless. So they are part of their journey. They're part of their story. So I guess it's just encouraging people to on face value, I can understand it. I know why people think it, but until you've had a conversation with another human being, you have no right to to surmise what you think their motivations are. And I guess from another thing, I guess I didn't realize, I mean, I say the sense as, well, I didn't realize this and I didn't realize this. I clearly didn't know what I was doing, but was I've got I've got a Siberian Husky and a Belgian Malinois cross, and I love them both dearly. But the thought of being with them 24/7 on the street, just, I mean, I don't think people have any comprehension how hard that is, and that by staying with your dog in that way and not giving them up, you are actually creating barriers for yourself. You're making what is already a really, really hard situation harder. And the reason, yes, you've got the benefits of that company of that dog and the mental health support that dog brings and the warmth, security and reason for living and all of those amazing things that we know that dogs give us. But the reality is they can't access some soup kitchens because they've got a dog. They can't get into hostels because they've got a dog. Less than 10% of hostels in the UK will let them in. They will not prioritize their own health because they will not leave their dog with anyone. So they are, I met a guy in the early days that, still had a hospital tag on. He had pneumonia. He just discharged himself because he couldn't bear the thought of what was happening to his dog when he was going into hospital. So, people need to just kind of turn it on the head. Yes, the dog is with them, but do you know what they're giving up? That they're actually foregoing a stepping stone to getting themselves back into their life, because being in a hostel allows you access to so much more support than you get, obviously, if you're rough sleeping. But it was through a conversation that I had with a client, and he said, "Oh yeah, I'm intentionally homeless, don't you know?" And I was like, "What are you talking about, intentionally homeless?" And he was like, "Yeah, I won't give up my dog, so I'm intentionally homeless." And I was just like, "Sorry, run that by me again." And yeah, so you get offered a room. In order to take the room, you have to give up your dog. Obviously, they ain't going to do that, so that's them, intentionally homeless. And I was like, nah, that's not okay. So at that point, that was about 2020, 2019, we started having conversations with hostels going, okay, what can we do to help you take dogs? And at the beginning, it was just simple stuff like, okay, we'll give you muzzles, we'll give you a crate. And then we started to do a bit more kind of discussion and found that, the biggest reason that hostels were saying no was because of health and safety, and actually just like a complete lack of training. Like, they were scared. A lot of them, people working in a hostel, didn't know how to work with dogs, not a clue. So if you're dealing, I don't know if either of you have been in a hostel, but they can be very complex, chaotic places. And you then stick dogs in the mix, you can see why people are like, do you know what, this is hard enough. Like, I can't do this. So, yeah, and then there was a competition announced on LinkedIn. It was Better with Pets Prize, Purina, which is for projects that strengthen and improve the human-animal bond. And I was like, I saw it on the Friday, you had to submit it by the Monday, and I was like, well, that's my weekend. So we did, and we won the money to start it. So we won that money, and then we created the Street Vet accredited hostel scheme. That was in 2020, and we have 3 full-time members of staff that run it. I don't have my latest stats. I probably should have checked, but it is a moving feast. But we've got about 80 accredited hostels across the UK.
Wow.
That's fantastic.
So yeah, it's basically just trying to give wraparound support, but the main thing is education and training for the people that are working there. Obviously, we give food to the dogs, get delivered, they get their pack, they get veterinary care, telemedicine platform, education, boarding. But the biggest thing is helping them write their contracts, policies, and training, because it's a lot. It's a lot. And if you've, sitting, another story, but it was Christmas Day and I got a call from someone who was working in a hostel. This was before the Street Vet accredited hostel scheme. And she sounded like about 18 years old. She was like screaming down the phone, like, can you help me? This dog's just collapsed in the hostel and I don't know what to do. And no one will help me. And it's Christmas Day. And the dog had a ruptured pile in the end, it turned out. And I was just like, I don't know how she's going to get over that. Like, do you know what I mean? It's like the responsibility was all on her and she didn't know what to do. And there was just nothing in place. And I was just like, yeah, this has to stop.
Yeah.
I
mean, it's an amazing journey, and you know, I mean, it feels like you're still just touching the surface of the legacy that, you know, you're developing, you know, from that perspective. And just to give you a chance to reflect, I mean, we've just been having some wonderful comments coming in, no questions per se, but you know, you'll get to read them back. But your number one fan, Rachel, who is in the industry, and we know her well, has got her patch, but you know, she's been sharing some really lovely, thoughtful moments, you know, and you know, knows the story, and you know, the emotion behind it is definitely touching her. And Steph, who's one of Claire's followers, you know, spoke to someone, and it was just pure love that they were talking about their dog, you know. So I think, you know, you're right about the, you know, the judgment and everything else. And I have a term sometimes that I use: we fill in the blanks, don't we? You know, as humans, we make our own assumptions, we fill in the blanks, and those blanks are often not right. And because we're too afraid, too British to ask and be curious, therefore, you know, we just go off in our little way and, oh, we forgot about it, you know. But all credit to you, Jade, you didn't stop thinking about it, and you're making such a wonderful impact. So, you know, I'll thank you on behalf of everybody who gets the opportunity to hear your story through our lives and YouTubes and channels, to say, you know, thank you and your team for helping everybody.
It's just incredible.
It's best journey of my life. Hardest, but the best. So I don't regret any of it. But
I love how you don't just see it and go, you're like, right, I'm doing it. What can I do? How can I do it? Because it takes
you heard what my mum said, she still denies it to this day. She was like, I never told you not to do it. But she said, she was like, is this really your battle? Like, do you need to take this one on? I was like,
yes.
I think I do, Mum. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
This one's keeping me awake at night. So
yeah, it's incredible. And I think like one of the things that I've heard you say is if you asked anybody that was watching this who they're going to love dogs if they're watching this, and if you said, if you had to give it your dog, would you? And people would be absolutely not. But like you say, the effect it has not giving it the dog. And I thought your film that you did was absolutely incredible in explaining that. And you had a lady on there that had like escaped domestic violence and taken her dog with her, and meant that was mean she was going to be in a situation where she was homeless because she wanted to keep her dog, who had been such a support for her through the circumstances she was living with, and that put her in a situation where you're homeless. And like you say, because of the way the project, the hostels had worked, it's keeping them out of support to get back into society and get back into homes. And the fact that you've got the hostel project alongside it, and I'd urge anyone, we'll pop the links for the films. It's just absolutely incredible. And I loved your film. I thought you had such a broad range of people, and I think it must only touch the surface on some of the people that you work with day in, day out. But someone that's fled domestic violence, someone that was said that, you know, I'm a criminal and I can't be a criminal anymore because I've got my dog. I can't go to prison because what would happen to my dog? And like the dogs are keeping them on the straight and narrow, which is just incredible. The love of dogs and how much it's doing for people, but like you say, how much it's held them back, and how much support you're putting in place to stop that being the case is just, it's inspirational to see your video and to hear what you do.
So the lady that's in the film, so she now volunteers for us, and she's studying to be a dog groomer. She's a hairdresser now, and yeah, she was in our first accredited street vet hostel. That's where I met her. So yeah, no, her and Bluebell are inseparable. But Bluebell, yeah, it took a while for her to come round to me, because she's been in some very extreme situations with her owner, so she's just not good with men at all. But we got there in the end.
Oh,
Wow.
that's incredible. I think there's so many things as a charity you've achieved, and we could talk about so many incredible achievements that you've done. But one of the things I did want to talk about is just some of the stories, the everyday moments that kind of really make you tick or really drive you. And you've touched on a couple of them, but are there any other stories that have really just kind of like gone, yes, this is why I'm doing what I'm doing. This is where the moments happen.
I miss it. Like, I don't get to go out on the street anywhere near, obviously, like I did. But yeah, just doing any kind of street vetting on a pavement does it for me, really. But yeah, I think one of the times that I kind of just sort of sat back and thought, okay, this is working. Like, we're actually doing this now. Was I was many years ago now, but one of our clients, his dog was hit by a train, and it's in London, and obviously in a normal situation where someone's homeless and their dog gets hit by a train, what were they going to do? Like, other than just like any person just be absolutely hysterical and trying to sort something out. But he obviously was registered with Street Vet. He had the tag, which meant he had the 0800 number, which is our free phone number. He phoned it, and then there's like beauty of collaboration happened between the vet practices, the volunteer team, the out of hours team. The dog got obviously taken into the vets. The dog stayed in the vets, I believe it was about 2 or 3 weeks. But again, that in itself is massive for the client to be able to cope without the dog for that time. But because he was part of Street Vet, the volunteers were like sending him updates, going to see him, telling him how the dog was doing. And yeah, I mean, she she survived. She lost an eye and one of her legs. But you know, we joke now, but built like a tank as a staffy, and you know, she was okay. But for me, that whole happening happened because we existed, and if we hadn't existed, she would have died, and he would have not have felt just beyond helpless. And I was like, you know, most of the out of hours and Street Vet, we're not an emergency service, and majority of our clients aren't delighted to have us because of that. It's just knowing that they've got that safety net, so that if anything was to happen, they don't feel like just like they have no idea what to do. Sometimes the most important thing we do is just talk to them and give them, you know, a toy for their dog. It's not the veterinary aspect per se. It's just knowing that they. So again, if somebody judges them, they can be like, well, actually, I see Street Vet every month, and I probably go to the vets more than you do. You know, there's that that ability to empower the owners to be part of something that they, you know, feel like they're doing the best they can by their dog, which is just beyond important to them.
Well, it's empowering for them, isn't it?
Yeah. And is there a kind of like treatment that you feel that as street vets at the moment that you are doing on a more regular basis? Is there something that you treat out there on the floor on a day-to-day? But is it kind of like your flea worming? Is it or is it how long like veterinary practice you can get a varied day and you never quite know what's coming in, sort of thing? Or
I mean, we mostly see sort of staffy crosses. So they, as a breed, are more predisposed to getting skin problems. As we said, a lot of these dogs are older, so we have like lots of dentals and lots of arthritis. But I mean, in general, because we now don't just do the outreaches on the street, we also have an out of area support. So we started that pretty much in COVID because the demand was just too high. We couldn't open on Teams quick enough. So we now offer like an emergency service. So if people are experiencing homelessness around the UK, they can be referred to us either by themselves or, you know, we get referrals from all over the place. We just have to verify that they're eligible, and then we will support them for emergency or if their animal is suffering. So we will get those emergency surgeries. So, you know, dogs that are hit by cars or, you know, pyometras and stuff like that. So, but majority of the time when we're out and about with a backpack on, it is it's about listening to people, giving them time, and then obviously preventative treatments, first opinion treatments, and then yeah, I mean it's evolved beyond a point I thought it would. Like when I started treatment, I was like, right, there's no way we're going to treat a dog with Cushing's. There's no way we're going to treat a dog with diabetes. We're not going to. And like, yeah, we do. And the reason we do is because I underestimated the commitment from the owners to make it, to make that work. So the dog that we have with diabetes, he lives in a caravan, I think it is, or a van. It's not even in an area where we have an outreach, but we have an RSPCA officer who helped us to like gain trust, I guess. We have a practice who is committed to that man, and then he has like this a random neighbor who gave him a fridge and plugs it in outside her house. So all of those things mean that we now treat a dog with diabetes. So I never thought we would, but I underestimated A, the owners, and B, how many people want to help and make things work.
Yeah.
So
well, and I think that is a real reason why locally we've chosen your organisation to benefit from the dog show that's on Sunday, and I know you appreciate let the vets know that managed to get you to come along today. So for that cause, how does that money get shared and out to the people that need it? I guess is maybe a good opportunity just to bring that to life. So if people come along and join in the dog show and we raise some funds, how does that money get spent?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately the veterinary costs and delivering the service is the most expensive part of street vet in terms of that. So we on average are spending between sort of 15 and 16,000 pounds a month on veterinary fees. We are in a very privileged position whereby obviously we have, I think it's over 500 now vets and nurses who are volunteering their time for free. We also get a lot of support from drug companies, food companies, toy companies. We are like, I say this a lot, but it is beyond true. Like if we hadn't had the support that we've had from the veterinary profession and beyond, we wouldn't have been able to scale as we have. So in terms of that all helps to keep the cost down. The fact we don't have offices, we don't have vet practices, all of these things keep costs down as well. So in terms of the support that people give, in terms of donating, in terms of going on our Amazon wish list, whatever it may be, it's being able to keep going and continue to deliver the service that we are, and open in new locations, which is more important to me. I mean, I love that we give an out area, but for me, it's about these teams of vets and nurses on the ground, because that's what actually allows a relationship to form and allows us to work together with the owner. Whereas in the out area, we are just kind of funding something. That's the honest truth. There's no, like, if God forbid, but we have a client whose animal gets put to sleep, we have the team, we have 5 vet nurses that work centrally for street vet, and they find that really hard because we just don't know what happens afterwards. Whereas when it's in a location where we exist, we know that client, we know that we can check up or speak to the support worker or something, and so that's the model that we want, and that's what I guess we're striving to do, and that's where the funds would be going, and obviously to the hostel scheme, and keeping that running as well.
So if you've got locations, you mentioned you've got, just before we went live, you've got quite a lot of locations. It's not like you've just got a couple, and we mentioned kind of I'm on the Birmingham-Warwickshire border, but you said you've got locations in Birmingham, street vets in Birmingham.
We do. Birmingham has been a location for many years, but we've just formed a strategic alliance with Battersea, which has allowed us to commit. They've given funding to support us opening 2 new locations a year for the next 5 years. So we've just opened Torquay, and we've opened Hastings, and we're opening in Liverpool in June. and then I don't know the next one is the honest answer. Quite a lot of research now. Whereas before, when I started, it was just like, where will we go next?
Yeah, I think the podcast that Rachel was on, you had it was a mandatory, it began with B to begin with, didn't it?
Yeah, it was just like, it was where people said to me, Jade, come and we'll do it for you. You know, we've got the vets, we've got the volunteers and nurses that want to do it. Now it's a bit more strategic. We have to look at, you know, homelessness figures, because there's everywhere needs support. And it's deciding obviously where there isn't, you know, support already, where we feel there's a lot of dogs, where we feel we can make the biggest impact. And obviously, are there vets and nurses that want to do it as well? Comes into factor.
Yeah, well, it's definitely piqued my interest in the sense of, I know you said that there's a presence in Reading, and you know, I'll talk to my local vets and understand how, you know, if they're involved and etc. Because I do think, you know, hopefully, you know, this discussion will really raise that awareness, and you know, we'll put some links onto your website, so where the Amazon Wish list, people can donate and stuff, and hopefully we'll, you know, I'll feel a lot more knowledgeable to be able to talk about it on Sunday, that's for sure. And you know, and you know, I think that's a really positive thing.
Absolutely.
So we've got the Amazon wish list, and if people just aren't sure how they're inspired by you and the incredible work you're doing, and they want to get in touch to help and don't quite know how to, is there a best way to get in touch with the charity, Jade?
Yeah, I mean, we've got a website, which is streetvet.org.uk. The email is info@streetvet.org.uk. We're on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, all the usual locations. But yeah, there's a one-off giving, there's, you know, monthly giving. Amazon wishlist people like, because they're buying a specific thing, and sometimes we will do appeals. So we have a lot of dogs and buggies around and about, just because, not necessarily because they can't walk, but because the owners need to walk, and if they're a wee bit arthritic, it gives them a chance to, you know, take a load off. So sometimes we do specific appeals for certain things, and yeah, the public are absolutely incredible to help us with those specific drives. So yeah, there's plenty of ways to get involved. But I guess for me, I always say this, but I'm going to say it anyway. If you see someone experiencing homelessness with a dog, please just talk to them. You know, you're a dog person, otherwise you wouldn't be listening. So and so are they, and we love nothing more in life than talking about our dogs, right? So you just lead with that. And as long as it's said in a positive way, not like me when I first started, which was, you know, do you need any help with your dog? No, just, you know, your dog's gorgeous, can I stroke him? Whatever. And it could be the only conversation they've had for days. And that in itself is really massive. And then if having a conversation with someone, you feel confident enough to say, have you heard of Street Vet? Do you know who they are? If they have, brilliant. If they haven't and they would like to know about us, you can advocate for them, and, you know, either show them the website, because most people have got phones, or you can contact us on their behalf, and we will get back in touch with them and see if we can help them if they need help.
Brilliant.
That's incredible. Thank you
that's
so much, Jade. Yeah.
And a lovely way to end.
And just, yeah, you, I just wanted to say that you've talked so much about so many people doing so many things, and I think, and talked about the naivety of it all when you started, but honestly, you're such an inspirational lady, because a lot of people see things and a lot of people can have thoughts about things, but to go and make something happen and to do the doing on the good days and the days when it's amazing, but the days when it's tough and it's quiet and behind the scenes, you're such an inspiration. So just thank you so much for what you're doing. It's incredible. It's absolutely brilliant, and it's so inspiring.
Thank you for supporting it and believing in it too. So
yeah, you're very welcome. And yeah, you know, if anyone has any future questions, then please get in touch with Claire or I, or obviously get in touch with Jade directly via the website. We'll put the links below, and yeah, have a good evening, and see as many as you possible on the 17th of May 2026, in case people are watching back. There was up and down turning up, weren't we, afterwards? Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Take care. Thank you.